All right, Kevin, back with you for another episode of the Million Dollar Relationships Podcast. And today I am here with Ken Burke. And Ken, man, welcome. So awesome to have you here today.
Oh, Kevin, it is great to be here. I love the concept of your podcast as well around relationships because, it's not something that, that everybody talks about and focuses on, yet it's probably the most important thing in business. So
Absolutely.
I really appreciate you getting out there and telling the world about this.
Yeah. Well, and I gotta tell a little story. I don't usually do this on this podcast, but I'm going to make an exception here because the way that you and I meeting and the way that this happened is really instructive. And through doing all that I've done for like the last 20 years and kind of being this connector for entrepreneurs and CEOs and stuff, and just really getting to this place where whether you're somebody who's a faith-based entrepreneur or not, if you believe in like the universe and just being in alignment, and I'm at the point where I am firmly a believer in that, and that I am in alignment.
Yes, I agree with you.
My purpose, my calling, and because of that, I just, my buddy Sean Stevenson, one of the things he used to say is everything happens for me and nothing happens to me. And sometimes that's, sometimes, when you have to look at it and say, how is this happening for me? But right. When we look for it and then we just expect it, and I even put a Facebook post up about this because I was like, when your right-hand guy, Neil, sent me an email and was like, hey, my partner, Ken, he's a pretty great entrepreneur. Here's a little bit of stuff about him. And Kevin, I think he'd be an amazing person for you to interview for your podcast. And so in addition to looking at what Neil sent over, I did a Google search, I did a YouTube, looked you up on YouTube, watched some of your videos and stuff. And so by the time that Neil was suggesting, hey, I could send you some of Ken's videos too to get a feel for him. And I'm like, you know what? I looked at some of them already, but yeah, send some more. And so, and I was just looking at that going, here we are right now. We're about a year since the inception of this podcast. A year ago, I wasn't doing a podcast, wasn't even on my radar till I had a conversation with a friend of mine. And here we are now. You are the 92nd person I have interviewed.
Wow.
This is one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my business career. And now people are reaching out to me, on a regular basis, to just because they want to be on the podcast or they want to talk to me about, Kev, I've heard some pretty amazing stuff about you, and I just want to connect with you. And it keeps just allowing me to continue making a bigger impact in this world. And that's great.
That is so good. That's what you're here to do. You're obviously in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing, which is great. It's working.
and I will tell you, the way Neil talked you up, Ken, and the conversation you and I already had on Zoom before we did this interview, I have been stoked about I've been pretty jazzed about doing this interview and just getting to know you.
I'm super excited. Well, it's interesting as you pose the questions about relationships and those valuable relationships. And I'm sure you'll pose the question because your listeners already know what they're going to ask. You're going to ask.
Oh yeah, they do.
Yeah, but it was very interesting. It's like, oh yeah, let me think about that because I have so many and so many influential people, but I want to also crystallize, well, what are these experiences for me? And they just started popping in. It is amazing when you ask the question, it's not one or two, it's 1 or 200, and it's paring it down to say, which ones were most valuable or relatable so that they can translate to the folks that are listening here. And so I've certainly given it quite a bit of thought and I'm excited to talk about it.
Awesome. Well, cool. Let's start here. Let's start by, sharing a little bit about your background, because you've got a pretty awesome background, and sharing, kind of a little bit about your background, what you do, who you serve, and you've got a unique experience that a lot of entrepreneurs, quite frankly, haven't had that experience yet.
No, well, it's been, I'm older. That's one, which isn't the fun part about being an older entrepreneur. But I'll just, hey, real quick, because I tend not to talk a lot about myself. I love to talk about the ideas and all the people that have helped me along the way. But you know what? I built an e-com company. I started 25, 30 years ago. It was an e-com software platform company called Market Live. And we built it from zero, one employee, me. You get one break, you get another break, you get another break. All of a sudden, you look back and you got a company, and then it starts growing from there. We did about $2 billion a year in online sales for our customers, and we were the e-com platform. So we were everything from merchandising, personalization, product, inventory, everything all the way through checkout, and then even post-checkout with all the customer fulfillment and care. But we did it on behalf of our customers. Our customers were like Warner Brothers, Disney, Johnson & Johnson, and all their products. Actually, we did Rogaine and everything. We did shampoos and toothpaste. I mean, it was crazy.
Wow.
And then of course we did Party City, and a lot of retailers, a lot of fashion brands like Armani were our customers, and we just grew it over 21 years.
Mm-hmm.
Sold it about 5-6 years ago to one of the largest software companies in the world. Had a great exit. And along the journey, so many relationships, so many lessons learned, the ups and downs and the roller coaster of entrepreneurs. We experienced it all. Happy to share any and all of that, of course. And then I took a year off. And after that year off, I came back because I'm a serial entrepreneur and it's in my blood. And I started one company and then started another company in the e-learning space. One is a content company called Entrepreneur Now, where we help entrepreneurs learn how to start and grow and run their business. It's a lot of e-learning stuff on there. A lot of it's free, by the way, so we encourage your listeners to go to it. And then we also built a software company. So I'm a practicing entrepreneur as of right now. I am literally launching a major software product that we've been building for the last year and a half, and doing it again. So whatever I'm experiencing in real time with you. It wasn't 25 years ago. Yep. It's literally today, right?
Yeah, happening right now. You didn't just sell the business and retire,
Yeah, that was a thought. And I tried that for a little bit, but it didn't work. It wasn't fulfilling enough. As you talk about being in alignment with what your purpose is, I like to work. I like to grow things. I like to have an impact on things. And so, in starting this next generation of companies, I really wanted to be more impactful companies that had a meaning to move the dial. Yeah, that was something beyond just profits. For me, we had done that. We had a very successful, run at building a major software platform that was Gartner and Forrester ranked as one of the top 5 platforms for many years. That was great. Good achievement. We had Sequoia Capital as our first investor. What an experience, right? For entrepreneurs, they know who Sequoia Capital is, the number one investment firm, VC firm in the world, invested in Google and Apple and everybody up and down the chain from, So it was quite a ride. And I have a lot of stories around that as well, but we're not going to tell them all today. But the thing that propelled me, and still to this day, and the people that came along to me in the second generation were the people that were initially involved in the first company. So I got an opportunity to work with people that I love to work with in my new companies, and pick the best of the best. And I don't mean the best of the best just, in their own areas and disciplines, the best all around humans that I really want to work with in this next iteration. And I was able to do that because of the relationships that we fostered within the first company. So, all of these relationships live, every interaction you have continues to live forward. It's part of your identification out there in the market. So if I was known as a guy that ripped off my salespeople or a guy that wasn't fair to my employees, nobody would want to come and work with my new company. Right. You never know when those relationships are going to come about. The other philosophy that I have, and I've evolved in this, I wish I could say I was evolved right from the get-go 20 years ago, 25 years. No, not at all. Is in the relationship game for me, in the spirit of the building a solid relationship, it's all about giving, and the receiving, we let it take care of itself. So it's, what can I do for you? I don't, as an example, appearing on your podcast, I don't want anything back. You don't even have to mention a website, a web address, my name. Don't even care. I don't care about any of that. It's, what can I give to Kevin and his listeners that might have some value? But I want your listeners to understand as well, if you come from a partnership or a relationship, and I think about a strategic partner, a joint venture, anything, about what you can give to them without asking for anything in return, initially anyway,
Yep.
You're going to have somebody that's really going to start to iterate with you, and you're going to build your businesses together.
Right.
It might sound contrarian or crazy. I got to tell you, I shifted my philosophy over the last couple of years to this. It really works.
Yeah.
So I know, I'm sure you've had experiences with this.
100%. And I will tell, yes. And when you give to others with, no intention of like getting back, it just, you give people such an experience that they just want to do for you. If they can help, they just
Bingo.
want to, because it's such an amazing experience, and they're just not used to it. They don't experience it that often, and so
they're usually they're used to people asking them for something, and it's
That's
like,
right.
I don't want anything from you.
yes.
Maybe your feedback, maybe your insight, but then I also want to give you, I was just doing a call today with a leader of a large digital agency, and she could potentially use our software and such. Didn't ask her for a thing. She wanted some education around kind of this world of e-learning, and I wanted to give that education, but I didn't follow up with, well, what customers can you introduce me with? By the way, that will all come in good time. I want to actually give her my product for free, and have her use it in her own business and experience that for 6 months or a year before I'm ever going to ask her for a potential referral. That might sound crazy, but let me make her business grow with some of the tools and things that I have, knowledge, product, whatever, in the particular e-learning space that I'm in, and maybe something will come down the road. I think it comes back to you 2x, 3x, 4x fold. That's been my experience.
Yeah.
Is that people then want to give back to you even in a multiplier effect.
Yes. Yeah. That's been mine too.
I know it sounds weird. You got to embrace it though for what it's worth. You might be giving a lot more than you're receiving in the early stages of this strategy. Let me just tell you, but it does tend to work out. I did this at Market Live as well. We had about 20 or 30 partners, and that would be add-ons to our product. We sold them. They never really ever sold us. They never really referred any business to us. But because we were selling them as an integrated partner to our solution was more valuable to our customers, because now I could sell them payments and Google search and Visa checkout and the trust and all these social commerce, all these things that we didn't do as a software platform. We took our software platform, and not everybody can see that we are videoing this as well, but you take it from a small group, just my product, and I was able to, double, triple, quadruple my functionality by bringing in partners that I sold my customers their products and services. I never ever asked my partners to sell me. I didn't need it because I was getting so much value out of them, and they loved it because they were getting new customers, right? So that's an example of something I did for 15 years and ultimately generated millions of dollars of revenue for us, that then ended up making me, when I sold the company, literally tens of millions of dollars based on that revenue. I hope that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So
Totally.
I ultimately benefited from those relationships 10, 15, 20 fold, because it incremented my revenue. It was very high margin as well. And it allowed the acquirer who acquired me to value my company higher.
That's
and
right.
that's where the ultimate gift back to me financially. But other than that, I just wanted to sell their products because our customers wanted it. That's why.
Yeah.
So
Man,
value add, value add, value add.
that is huge. That is huge. Well, I really appreciate you sharing all that, Ken. So what I want to do is I'm gonna shift gears just a little bit here, and I'm gonna reiterate the question for the benefit of all the listeners. And so, have you ever been introduced to a person that completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person? And I know, I talk with so many entrepreneurs, and they're like, one person, Kev, seriously? There's been so many. And what I always tell them is, ideally, yeah, I'd love to whittle this down and us be able to honor one person, but you have to do what is right, what you feel is right for you. And I always tell every guest that, you share what you feel is right for you and what is on your heart to share. And I know that, in our conversation earlier, some stuff was coming up for you. And now that you even had more time to think about it, I'm really excited to hear what you have to share.
And I'm going to give you I'll give you a slightly different answer than one individual, although I have many individuals that I could pick out. But I picked two groups of people
Okay.
that really did change the course overall. And the first were the employees of Market Live, my company. We had about 250 employees. And I know it's not one individual, but I got to tell you, those employees taught me day in and day out how to run a company and how to be better, because we created a culture at Market Live. One was very, very positive and employee friendly. It was a stressful environment. We were building e-commerce sites in 2000 and 1999, and the technology in 2005 and 2006. The technology wasn't always there. Websites would go down. We were building things that never had been created before. Today, it's like, yeah, you get Shopify, you get one of these engines. They're easy. They're all done. Yeah, that's not the way it was 20 years ago. And the people that are building technologies today and companies today, you're going to experience the same thing that I did 20 years ago. So these are completely relevant, but it's going to be whatever the newer technologies are today. It might be the metaverse or, which is big, or cryptocurrency, or whatever you're doing, right? That's the next AI, augmented reality, machine learning, whatever it is for you and the application of your business, you're going to go through the same thing. And I got to tell you, the people that prompted me up, the people that gave me the guidance and slapped me in the head or on the butt, or whatever, that when I was doing something wrong, were my first and foremost my employees. Second were my customers, and I want to drill down on employees first, because you have to create an environment for which you're fostering them as individuals and their career. So we, initially we hired younger people, although a mix of people, but they became older as the company went along, because we had a ridiculous retention rate in the tech industry. Normal retention rate in the Silicon Valley is about 9 months. It might even be lower now, but back then it was about 9 months. Okay. And we would keep our employees. We had employees there 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. We used to do an award every quarter. We would go around the company, and we had huge bouquet of flowers that we would take around. It'd be like an event, but everybody would be working. It'd be about noontime. We'd go with depending on if you were there 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years, you would get not only this amazing bouquet of flowers in this very, very nice high-end vase. That might sound a little like, okay, what else did you give them? They would either get a week off, 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off, or 4 weeks off, depending on how long they'd been there for that. Great. And then we would also bonus them thousands of dollars, depending on if it was 5 years, anniversary 15, 10, 15. And we would do this every quarter. And I was always shocked at how many people had been there like 10 years and then 15 years, and even some 20 years. Had been there 20 years. And that's just in the tech space, it's unheard of. And I think that the ingredient was that they were teaching me and I was teaching them. They were getting continual value out of this growing business that they were a part of, they could associate themselves with, that was successful as well. But it wasn't always successful. We got beaten up by our customers. They got beaten up by our customers sometimes, but we always had their back. And I never allowed a customer or a partner to degrade, to be mean I would rather not have the customer than somebody be overly aggressive to one of our employees. Yeah. I had to shut down a couple of customers. I remember having a call with Warner Brothers. The guy was just, he wasn't very nice, and he was always being aggressive with our employees. I said, the next time that you are like this to our employees, you're done. We're not renewing you. I don't care if you pay us $500,000 a year, which is what they paid us. I don't care if you're Warner Brothers. You're not going to be a customer of ours. I will turn your site off. Of course, appropriately. I didn't threaten it because we don't do business that way, but I will not renew your contract. You're going to have to go look for somebody else. Boy, did that that Warner Brothers representative get scored away, because the relationship, I was training him, the Warner Brothers guy, that we have a certain culture and that we operate in a certain way, and we're not going to violate that. There were a couple other examples, they're all popping into my head now. Sorry. We had an example where we were going to sign a couple of customers. They're very controversial customers. I'll even say them to your group. They were controversial, and I won't take sides with them, but one was Playboy, and we did sign them ultimately. One was focused on the family, which was a very religious right organization. We're in California, so understand that that's just the way that we think here. Many people in California, that they were both good and had goods and bad. We actually took it to a vote. We ended up taking both of the customers, but we had employees vote on it, give their feedback on it. And if the vote came into where this customer we should not be taking, then we would not have taken that customer. Ultimately, it was the company's decision to not pass on the business, but not for business reasons, that we allocated the right teams. We put only people that wanted to work on those accounts. And by the way, we had religious right folks, very conservative, that dying to work on Focus on the Family. They couldn't wait. We had other people that would not want to touch that site. That's fine. And then we had the same with Playboy, right? Now, we did a lot of the clean stuff on Playboy. Don't worry, it wasn't pornographic, but well, I guess somewhat. But we only had employees that were appropriate to work on that wanted to work on that. So it's a continual fostering of this and listening to your employees. But the feedback that I got back from them, and I incorporated them in everything we did. And that relationship became stronger and stronger. And I'll just say, to end on that particular one is, or open it up to questions, is the relationships that I have today with them, the employees, and their affection for the company that no longer exists anymore because we sold it, is still very, very strong, and the ties are very strong. And I hear from them on an ongoing basis. And I love, that's the reward. The reward was 5 years after we sold the company, people telling me it was the best place they ever worked. They learned more there than anywhere else. That's the reward. That was the reward I got, right?
Yeah.
That's relationships. It's all about relationships and valuing them as individuals, valuing them to have a voice at the table, and bringing everybody together on an ongoing basis. I remember one year, we used to do these incredible Christmas parties, and it's not about having a big party and expense. Some years they weren't that big, but they were very meaningful. I didn't make every employee come, but almost every employee came, and that's unusual in a Christmas party. We would always invite their spouse or their partner or their invited guest personally, these personal touches. And then when they were there, they were the stars. They were the stars of wherever we did our parties. And sometimes we didn't have a whole lot of money. I remember one Thanksgiving, we didn't have a lot of money, and we had about 100 employees. And we had a pretty big office. It was a warehouse. And we put together 10 tables or so. And we catered it didn't cost a lot of money, given, a nice turkey dinner with all the trimmings to celebrate Thanksgiving all together on this table that, had seating 100 people. That's the kind of memorable stuff. It didn't cost a lot of money. Yeah. It was just something that we didn't have a lot of money at that time. And that was kind of a way we could supplement doing something bigger. When our competitors were all throwing big parties and spending lots of money, it's not who we were, but we always treated everybody right. Anyway, couple examples there.
That's huge. That is huge. And, for a guy like me who believes that, relationships are the most valuable asset that an entrepreneur can possibly possess. I mean, you have just spoken into that in such a big way, and regardless of, you had 250 people on your team at that company, but, anybody listening to this, whether they've got, 250, whether they got 100, whether they got 50, whether they got 2, it
doesn't matter.
That's right. And
it's actually more important. The smaller you are, the more important those actually are, because as you grow, you do lose touch a little. I mean, with 250 employees around the world, I wasn't able to touch every employee every day, but I got to tell you, I learned a valuable lesson. I just want to share with you real quick, very quick, is that one of my employees, one of my greatest teachers, her name was Julie. I have to plug her in here in case I got to make her listen to this, because she'll love the fact that I referenced her and one of my greatest teachers. She started with the company. She was number 2 employee, and a very good friend of mine, and still today a very, very good friend. And she came up to me one time. She was my greatest teacher because she was the one that and I'm punching my fist because she would challenge me on everything possible, right? And that's why she was my greatest teacher, one of my greatest teachers, because they're the ones that they call your BS, or they call you on your BS, and they straighten you out when you need to be straightened out. She came to me one day and said, Ken, I was fairly intense, especially when I was younger. Now I'm easygoing, slow pace, as you can tell by my talk. I barely have any energy at all, right? Back then, right. I was really hyper. I mean, I was off the wall, right? She came to me one day and she said, Ken, employees have come to me over the last couple of months, and when you pass by them, sometimes you don't say hi to them. We had a little campus, so we had 4 or 5 buildings, and we go from building to building, or when you walk down the halls or whatever, you may not make eye contact, and they think that you're mad at them. And are you mad at them? I mean, and no, I'm not mad at them. I was so involved in the business and in my own head with whatever things that was going on during that day, personal or professional, usually professional. But sometimes I wouldn't look up after she said it. The day after she said it, I never stopped making eye contact with employees or saying hi, because I realized that I am the CEO. I'm the marker for which they understand a little bit about how they're doing, and or have some reference about their job to. And even if I don't talk to them every day, every week, every month, I knew everybody's name. When I walked down the halls, it was always eye contact. Hello, how are you doing? When you step out of your office, if you want to be a jerk in your office and you, for some reason, or you're in a grumpy mood, stay in your office. The second you go out, whether it's customers, because we had customers coming in constantly to our conference rooms, and I wasn't in every meeting, but when those customers were there, boy, you made sure that you do a meet and greet with them, even if you're not part of the meeting, and you let them know they're very welcome. They're welcome, and whatever they need, you're here for. When you walk out of your office, when you're in your office, you can be grumpy. When you're out of your office, customers and employees, boy, eye contact, hellos, connect.
Yeah.
It woke me up. It woke me up.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. So I know you wanted to talk about your relationships with your customer, or with your people on your team. And so let's dig a little bit more into, and you shared a little bit around customers and stuff, but let's dig in a little bit more, because that is the other piece of this too, of these relationships. And
it is, and the customers taught me the other big lesson. I think they were my greatest teachers, and all of them, and they would all know this too, because our customers also stayed with us for a long time. Doesn't mean we didn't lose customers, but we had customers that were with us 10, 15, 20 years. Just they went on the journey with us, and they stayed on our platform, which in the e-com software business is unheard of as well.
Sure.
They stayed with us because it was all because of the relationship, because we had really good technology, no question. But throughout the years, we were always growing, and we were changing, and we were evolving. And when you're doing that, you break stuff. You break stuff along the way. And in the space of e-commerce, they get mad. This is why a lot of retailers jump from platform to platform. This is why a lot of customers change providers. Your listeners, whatever they're providing, they'll change providers because they think the grass is always greener on the other side. Here's the deal. The first thing you have to realize, and you have to make sure your customers know this as well, but in a very gentle way, they're messed up internally as well. Here you are, even if you're perfect, your software is perfect, your business is perfect, your services are perfect, they're not, okay? And so you're always going to run up against challenges, whether you're a service company or a product company, just because it is, right? It just is. Now, with that, what you have, so because they're kind of always messed up, and you're also a little messed up as well, it's just the reality of business, because
take ownership of that. We're all messed up.
Take ownership of it. Exactly. No, you're right. And so we did own it, and we did, when we were wrong, we were wrong. When we needed to credit, we credited. But the point, I think, is that you're always going to have conflict, and it's how you resolve the conflict, and it's the relationship that got us through everything. It was what we gave back to them. We were always giving of our knowledge, of our education, of how we could build their business. We would go out and meet them on a regular basis. I was flying around the country like crazy, man, as well, because that human touch was important. But where it all culminated was an event that I actually talked to you about in our pre-call that I want to share. Is about 7, 8 years into the business, 5 years into about 5, 6 years into the business, I decided one year, and I don't know why I did this, best decision I ever made was to do a summit. Now, we had maybe 40, 50 customers at the time, and it was a customer summit. My idea was, I'm going to invite all our customers to one location, and I'm going to spend 2.5 days with them, with all our employees, teaching them how to do e-commerce, telling them about our company, giving them training, all that stuff. First of all, when I did the first year, I'm like, I don't know if anybody's going to come, right? I mean, like, who's going to show up? Because prior to that, our customers would get on the phone, they'd yell at us, they'd be animated, we would make a mistake, or this, that, challenges, because we were always having challenges. They had challenges, we had challenges. No matter if they were using our stuff or somebody else's stuff, they would have these same challenges, if not more. Okay. So we always thought our customers hated us. Like, oh my God, this was in the early days before NPS scores and things like that. So I don't know what I was thinking, but I was very scared. I invited our 50 customers to our first summit in Sonoma, California, which is right near where our offices were, had all of our employees there, everything. And I was, at the end of the summit, this 2.5 day summit, I was in shock. They actually liked us. They didn't just like us, they loved us. But it took me getting them all face to face, all in a room together, and for them to network and talk. Our summit became legendary, not only with our customers. So we did one for the next 16 years. We did a summit, and I got to tell you, the first year was 40 or 50. I remember it well. Again, at the end of it, I was completely exhausted, and I looked to my executive team, and I'm like, "Well, something weird just happened. Like, why are they so nice and complimentary, and they're flowing with all these wonderful things, but when they're on the phone with us, they're raging lunatics." I say that with all love in my heart. And so doing that summit every year really became an anchor point to where I would pay customers their room and board and air flight. If they couldn't make it, if they couldn't come, I usually had every customer. If a customer wasn't going to come to our summit, they would have to physically tell me no, because I would be on the phone with them, and they'd say, I can't make it. Rarely did a customer not show up to our summit, whether I had to pay for them to get there. Many cases they paid to get there, and they paid the fees. Every year we had it. Almost every customer came, and we got the same response for 16 years. That even when we were doing bad, when they were at the summit, it was all kind of reconciled for the year, and we would be able to move on. So my advice is, that was a huge lesson, because I just thought we were, not that great, and they told me otherwise. And my advice to the group out there is, if you can get your customers together, even virtually, even for 4 hours or 6 hours, and give back to them, because all we did there was we educated. This summit wasn't about Market Live and our new technologies. It became a little bit more of that. It was all about education. It was 2.5 days of how to build your business and grow your business. And it was all, I charged, I think, $195. People thought it was crazy. People in the industry thought I was crazy for charging $195. They're like, this is worth like $5,000 a person, $3,000 a person. You're charging $195. Didn't care, didn't want to. I brought in sponsors. Google sponsored it. Visa sponsored it. We had name brand sponsors throughout the e-commerce industry. Every year they would be there at our summit. And we hardly even charged them that much. I mean, we did charge Google and Visa because they have different kind. I always say there's money, and then there's Visa money or Google money. It's a whole different world.
Yeah.
Their checkbook is a whole different size. So anyway, the point is, if you can somehow do this with your customers and continue to build that relationship and strengthen that bond, you can go through a lot with them. They will stay with you a lot longer. And I experience this day in and day out. Yeah. They'll stay with you a lot longer if you have that relationship.
Wow. That is really powerful. And, Ken, I'll tell you, this podcast has always been twofold for me. The one side of it is interviewing entrepreneurs like yourself, so you can share your story, your experience around this topic. And then the other side of it is inspiring the listeners who are also entrepreneurs and CEOs to just place a more intentional focus on creating real, meaningful, rewarding, and profitable relationships in their lives.
Oh, absolutely.
And you have definitely helped deliver on that today. And so I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation, to share from your experience, to honor, those employees, those customers, and you know what? You even called out Julie. So we'll have to make sure if we're
at the top of the list
this with Julie, she gets to hear this, and we'll send her a little love and appreciation. And so before we wrap, I mean, anybody listening to this is like, man, Kev, that guy Ken, he's pretty awesome. I love the way Ken shows up. That guy he's got such great energy. How can they find out more? I know you mentioned a website earlier and stuff, a company name, but how can they find out more about what you guys are doing right now and just get going?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, do a couple of websites. First, kenburke.com, KenBurke.com has my book on there as well. You can go to Amazon and grab a copy of my book called Prosper: 5 Keys Steps to Thriving in Business and in Life. So it's a cross between a personal development book and a business book. So if people are into that, then great. That's terrific. Certainly Entrepreneur Now, for any entrepreneurs out there, we've got a ton of free information, free membership for life as well, where we add new courses all the time, absolutely free. And then, of course, we have some paid stuff as well if they need to get something done specific to a certain thing. And then my e-learning company, Microcasting, which I didn't talk too much about, which is certainly okay. That's my software platform for e-learning as well. And so all of those platforms certainly were available to everybody.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Ken, I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation. Any last words before we call
Oh,
it?
I just wanted to, hey, I think that the people that listen to this podcast get that relationships are important. We don't need to sell them on that idea, right? They're hearing that over and over and they buy into that. But it's how you manifest those relationships and how much time and attention that you invest in those. And you know those people out there that invest in relationships. You just know them, right?
Yeah.
They're going the extra mile. They're making, instead of doing a Zoom call, you get your butt on a plane and you go out and you see them, see a customer, see an employee. Those are the people that are investing in. And you might think it might take up more of your time and you're just go, 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 go. No, that's actually, you can go, 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 go right off a cliff, 100 miles an hour. But you know what? If you actually work the business over time, it multiplies. And that's going to come in the form of relationships. That's where it's going to come. So,
absolutely.
it's a deployment and execution of how you do that. And hopefully we've covered some of that today, along with all of your many, many podcasts that you've done already.
Well, Ken, thank you again. Really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Great. Thank you. And thanks everyone listening.